All right. Take 3, 4. Here we go. Hello. I am starting off this video and I want to talk about the album Foam by Ulla. It's going to kind of go over my thoughts on it, do a bit of a review, just starting this whole thing. Had been kind of doing reviews on my own, just kind of taking all my time with different albums, and now I'm deciding, hey, why don't I try do videos, see how that makes me feel, see how that goes. So here we are. So firstly, Ulla, the artist, I did not know much about her. I believe it is a her. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But I don't know that much about her. She was formerly known as Ulla Strauss, now just Ulla. She is, according to her Bandcamp, based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I am familiar with a couple of her albums. I had listened to 11 Items, which is a kind of a collaboration. I can think of the word she did with Pontiac Streeter. That's an artist I like too, in a similar vein. And she also did the Limitless Frame, which came out, I don't know, a couple years ago or something. And I checked both of those out, and I liked them both. But this one I think I like a little bit more. And this one is Foam. This came out last year, 2022. And it's kind of... the style is very experimental. It's kind of like ambient, kind of glitchy, plunderphonics-y, very sample-based. And I would say that the album is called Foam, obviously, and I think that it kind of sounds like foam. It sounds like the way that foam looks, like the consistency and the look of foam. Foam that comes up, I think of a bath, and you have the bubbles in the bath or something, and the bubbles come up, and it's this foam. And they're irregularly shapen. They're very light and pretty, reflective. There's colors shimmering and being refracted through the bubbles, but when you put your hand through it and you touch them, it just kind of clings off and falls apart, and it's very kind of empty inside. And that's kind of what I feel like this sounds like, and not empty in a bad way. It's the point. And it reminds me of the album cover. So the album cover is seafoam green. It's foam. The seafoam green background with this large flower, a daisy, I think. I'm not good with flowers. But large flower kind of in the bottom corner. But it's not very, but it's blurry. It's like just slightly out of focus. And that's, again, what this album kind of feels like. Everything's kind of out of focus. Everything's distant. And yeah. So that's that. I also, before I go into all the different songs, I want to mention that this is mastered by Rashad Becker, who is a name that I've seen a lot. I've listened to some of he's got a couple solo projects. I listened to one of them, which is really maddening kind of music. But he does a lot of mastering for a lot of different experimental artists. Huge list of credits for him on different projects. Just some of the names he's worked with that I know personally, and this is just a small amount of them, is Mono Lake, The Knife, Helm, Holly Herndon, Laurel Halo, Finez, I think I'm saying that right, but I don't know. Ryuichi Sakamoto, Matmos, Empty Set, Visible Cloaks, and Clipping. He did the recent Clipping album, apparently. The Visions of Bodies Being Buried, or Burned. Being Burned. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently he mastered on that, and I didn't know that. That's cool. But yeah, I just mention it because he's kind of, I guess he's kind of a legend. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about him, but I see his name a lot, and I'm always like, oh, okay, cool. So anyway, to get more into the songs, I'm going to go through all the songs, talk about the more specifics of how this sounds. So first track is called Song. And it's definitely a bit of an intro. It's a shorter track. And it really feels like a thesis for the rest of the album, or an example of what the album is going to sound like in terms of the elements. It is very disparate. So there's a lot of like empty space in the song. And there's just these different elements, very different, like coming from left field, that are kind of like phasing in and out. Like really quick, like jumping on a light speed in and out. There are these chopped pianos. There is these kind of gentle, fuzzy clacking sounds. This kind of noise element to it, as well as more of a harsher noise cut that kind of goes, kind of cuts in there. And then there is this distant, angelic voice. And all of these elements, maybe not the sharp noise cut as much. There's not too much harshness on this. But like the chopped piano samples, the kind of noise element, or a drone kind of element to things, and then this distant angelic voice. These are all very prominent, and the voice in particular is on most songs, and I feel like is very important to the album. The way that the vocals sound, they're distant, they're very echoey, and it's just like this specific kind of processing that's done on them. And it's a little bit different in each song, but it's the same at the same time. And it reminds me of like television memories, like the memory of television, where this voice is kind of like coming through you through a broadcast, transmitted through technology. But it's like, it's a memory, it's nostalgic, and it's like you can't quite grasp it, so you can't quite hear what they're saying, because almost all the vocals on here are like unintelligible. They're kind of, they're not words. And so it just feels like something that's there, but it's not solidified. It's foam, it's light, it's airy. But yeah, and again, that is important to the rest of the album, I think. And again, a lot of these elements that are shown in this first song just kind of present themselves throughout the album. So then we go into the second song, Gloss, and this is like probably the most aggressive song on the album. It really like kind of grabs hold of you and like shakes you, which none of the other songs really do. But it's mostly because it has these vocal edits that are like layered and just like nonsensical almost in how much is going on. I mean, all of the vocals are nonsense, but they're a little bit more structured and infrequent. But this is just like, especially at the beginning of the song, it's just like, it's pretty wild. It kind of sounds to me like, like kind of like robots malfunctioning or something, like just multiple robots malfunctioning. That was my first thought. But I can also kind of think of it as like multiple TVs. I keep going with this TV metaphor. It's like multiple TV, playing different shows, channels, broadcasts. And it's all happening at the same time. And with this, you've got like some droning sounds, kind of like airy droning sounds, gentle little bloops and noise here and there, all this kind of ambiance and texture, and all this intense vocal editing. And then slowly throughout the song, the vocal editing kind of calms down and fades away and gets less and less until we're left with more of a calm ambience. So cool track, a little bit much, but it's cool. Then you get to Popping Out. And the first thing I thought when I heard this song was like, I want to rap over this song. I want there to be a rap over this song. Like a very cloudy, experimental kind of hip hop thing going on. And not that the song sounds like hip hop at all. It's just, this is one of the only songs that has like a distinct rhythm to it. There's a couple other, but not much. But this has like this repeating synth line that just kind of goes over and over again, and has this very distinct, constant rhythm to it. And that's kind of going slowly, and then again, all these other things are phasing in and out, popping in and out all over. There's just enough of a pocket in there that you could just kind of like ride on. And then you get these vocal samples as well that are actually almost catchy, not really, but they have more of a pattern to them and almost a bit of like a melodic tonality to it and not just noise. But it's a really cool song. I think kind of a standout on the album, one of my favorites. Then we go into Marina. And this is a shorter track, and it's very simple, but I like it a lot. It is literally just guitar. It's just guitar edits. But the guitar, like the rest of the edits in the album, are kind of nonsensical. It's not like, editing it together to have this nice progression or melody or loop or anything. It's just random guitar little runs that are like half a second long, just chopped up on top of each other after one another, and it's just, it's kind of disorienting, but still like there's like an ambiance and a like echo and effects done to the guitar, so it kind of creates this atmosphere. But it's not a lot. It's still just like nice sounding guitar. And when I hear this song, it makes me feel like I'm at some sort of like quasi fancy seaside restaurant, a restaurant, on the bay at the Marina. It's at like a resort kind of town place that, you'd go to. It's like some like, fake fancy middle class kind of place. And it's like you're at this restaurant that's on the sea. There's some guy, playing his acoustic guitar, live music kind of going on. It's just nice, the clinking of glasses, and you're kind of sitting there, waiting for your food or whatever. It was kind of like that, but because of all the weird edits, it's like you've taken drugs and you're at this restaurant and they've just started to hit. So they're not like full on, like totally, weird psychedelic or anything. It's just like, this feels wrong. Something isn't right. Like maybe the world starts to like shift and tilt and stuff, and the music that should be calming is like weird. I don't know. That's what it makes me feel like. Again, I like this track. Simple, short, but it's good. Then we get Creepy Girl. This has the most probably conventional percussive element. I don't think the rhythm is strong as popping out, but it has a kick drum, and it has a brush, brushing across some percussion. And that's steady throughout the whole song. It also has these pianos that remind me a lot of the guitars on Marina, the way that it's chopped up, but it's piano. It's a little bit of a different feeling. And there are vocals on this, but not a lot. And this song is fine. It's not a standout to me. We get into Sad Face. This song is interesting. It's called Sad Face. And you have this vocal line that keeps repeating. Not like keeps repeating. It'll come in and then it'll go away and it'll come in again. But every time it comes in, it's almost like it's bringing in these other sounds, and there's all this like static and noise, and it's like all around you and scattered here and there. You can feel it if you got like headphones on or good speakers. It's all around you. There's a lot of space. And so the vocal comes and it's like it starts to fade away, but all this noise is still kind of happening, and then that kind of fades away, and it comes again, and it all happens again, and it's very fluid and wave-like. And then there's these synths underneath that are kind of lapping away, almost like they remind me of like very gentle waves. It's kind of like happening underneath the vocals and the noise stuff going on. And then eventually those vocals start to dissipate, and that noise starts to dissipate, and it gets quieter and quieter when it comes back, and then it's just you hear like this calm shore sound. And so it gives me this idea with the song, with the title "Sad Face," that like I'm at the beach, and there is this like sad angelic face looking at me, over the waves, and it's like beckoning you into the ocean, with its sadness, and it's upsetting, and it's talking to you, and you're like, I don't want, I don't know, but like I should stay here. And eventually, like, you close your eyes and listen to the waves, and they start to take over, and that voice and the face fades away. I don't know. It's a cool evocative track. And a lot of the stuff on this album is brings like really vivid images to me, and it's part of the reason I like it so much. Next track, we're on track 7, is Indoor Type. This is basically an interlude. It's a really simple track, basically just one distant loop, like really far off kind of noise loop, slow, and then just some very sparse vocals. Short track, just interluding into the next one. Next track is Blush. Really cool synth sounds on this. They're kind of like the malfunctioning robotic sounds of Gloss, but instead of it being like an actual voice, like a robot that has more of a human voice, it sounds more like droids, like from Star Wars, kind of like kind of sound. And I just love synth sounds that have that gargly, glitchy quality to it. But it has this, and that's, I love that synth part. It's got some dripping sounds going on, some more sparse vocals coming in and out, and then these very sparse, sad piano bits. And probably the saddest bit of music on the whole album. I mean, we had a song called Sad Face, and it kind of evoked a sad image to me, but it wasn't particularly like melancholy, with like the actual notes, I should say, it's not like I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe if you've heard it, you'll understand. But on Blush, the pianos really do sound like sad and dreary. And I think that's cool. I think it's something I kind of wish the album had more of, if I had to gripe. It's not like particularly being sad, but just like more emotional. It's very distant and kind of cold in a way. Warm and cold at the same time. But it's like sterile almost. There's not a lot of affect and emotion going on. It's a bit more cerebral. And so, and I like emotion in my music. That really like catches me. But yeah, no, Blush is a great song though. Anyway, I'm rambling. Next track is For Your Love. And this one stands out because it is the only song that has a clear, distinct words being spoken by the voice that we keep hearing. And it's For Your Love. It's the title of the song. And that alone makes me like the song, because it gives us this like longing feeling. Just like hearing that, for your love. And it's, kind of glitchy. And it reminds me of Burial. The way that Burial uses vocal edits and song samples, and has that ghostly feeling about them, and they're always like about love and longing, and it makes everything feel very sad. And this song isn't like super sad, but it does have that longing feeling, and it also has a wave-like quality, which a lot of these songs have. And yeah, this is one of my favorite tracks too. It's just beautiful. I don't have much more to say about it. I find it beautiful and endearing. And then we move on to Scrubby. This is track 10. And I love this song, which is also kind of an interlude. It is basically just like a solo on this little kind of goofy, almost sounding keyboard. But it very specifically reminds me of the game Animal Crossing. Particularly the first Animal Crossing, the one on the GameCube. just the music on that had a similar kind of like plopping around, and it's just very gentle and calming. And that's what this song sounds like to me. And it gives me that kind of like nostalgic, warm, cozy feeling of playing this very gentle, gentle kind of wholesome game. I don't know. It's an interesting part in the album. It makes it feel like it's called scrubby. It almost feels like it's scrubbing my palette. Of a couple last tracks are a little bit more emotional and sad, and this is kind of like, no, it's okay. We're having a good time. But that then transitions into the 11th track called 11. And it has another cool synth that has that kind of malfunctioning droid sound. It's very wavy and warbly. And I like that. And there's there's vocal samples in here, but they're really, really quiet. They're less vocals. You can almost wouldn't really notice them if you're not paying attention, but you realize that what kind of sounds like synth sounds maybe, or actually I think vocal edits, or samples. And so, yeah, and then that's the song. I will say this is might be my least favorite song. I think it's a little bit of a boring point in the album. At this point, a lot of the songs, after the first 45 seconds, you kind of know what you're to expect for most of them. Some of them have more of a progression, but a lot of them just kind of present this sound and ideas to you, and you just kind of sit in it for 2-3 minutes. I think at this point it's a little bit like, okay, I get it. And this song isn't particularly remarkable in any way, in my opinion. Not that it's bad. It's not bad. It fits the vibe. But anyway, then we move on to track 12, Egg, which is another one of my favorites. I kind of like 3 big favorites, I think, which is For Your Love, Popping Out, and Egg. And this Egg is a very short track. And it's very simple, but it has this descending arpeggiated synth. That's, it's like arpeggiating on one note. So it's just like, and it just kind of descends a bit and goes up a little bit and then descends again. And it just does that like a few times, more than a few times, but it's not a long song, but it does that over and over again. And that descent is just so infectious to me. It's like a trance, and I just can't get enough of it. I could have that song go on for like 5 minutes. And it also has these vocals coming in too, which add to it, that, are repetitive and have a melodic quality as well, that kind of like harmonizes with the synth. The vocals kind of sound like they're saying showing them, but I don't think they do. Because, what would that even mean? But maybe it does. But yeah, I don't know. I just love this. I just love this track. Then we get to the second to the last track is Macy's. And I immediately think of Macy's, the department store, just with the title. And I'm thinking, does this have anything to do with Macy's? I haven't been into Macy's in forever, but it might. I can push a theory that it is related, and that would be that the thing that stands out to me about this song is that the vocals, there are just some more kind of typical for this album edited, chopped stuff. But there is a bit of singing on here that is not edited. It's a note is kind of held out for a while, and there's a little bit of a run almost, and someone's actually singing. It's not it doesn't sound like a sample from a song. It just sounds like what I assume is Ulla doing all these vocals and chopping them up and stuff. But it sounds like just somebody singing into a mic, in their bedroom or something. But the fact that it's not as edited, it almost feels like it's an attempt, not an attempt, but it's like an imitation of a more traditional song, and the kind of song that you might hear playing in a department store or like a Macy's, just kind of mindless pop music. And so by having that vocal be a little bit different and a little bit slightly more conventional and not that weird edited, it's almost like, with the mixture of everything else that's going on in the songs and in this song, it's like a memory of being in a department store. um, you know, and like having the feelings, like especially of being like a kid and looking around and not understanding it, and just kind of having all the things, the sounds and the sights just kind of come through you, and you don't really get it. You're looking at, whatever's eye level because everything's too big for you. Either that, or it's like you're an adult and you're in Macy's, and for whatever reason you're just not there. You're like in your own head, and so all the sound is coming around you, but it's like it's not getting in through your filters. It's like gated, it's coming in, half baked or something. I don't know. It's a cool song. But there's not too much going on there that's like that different than anything else that we've heard, that you may have heard if you listen to the album. This is a point though where I noticed just how much I loved the way that all of the edits phase in and out. They're really like smooth, and it's probably nothing for most people depending on what software and hardware and stuff you use. But I guess it sells it for me. The way, I think I said it before, but it's like, it's not, it's abrupt. All the edits are abrupt, but they're just not abrupt enough, if that makes sense, that it feels like they're coming in. If you really hear it, it's like they're phasing in, like, in Star Trek when they do like warp speed or whatever, any kind of sci-fi where you go into warp speed and you faster than light travel, you kind of like out and back in, like kind of out of nowhere, essentially. That's what it feels like. It's coming in really fast, but it's coming in from something and then it's coming out again. So I don't know. It helps sell the album, in my opinion. Yeah, and then we get on to the last track, which is called Foam Angel. And I've been using the term angel a lot to describe the vocals on this, and this is kind of why. Because when I saw this track title and I heard this song, there's a lot of vocals on this track. They're really prominent. And it made me think, like, the album is called Foam, and I think that makes sense for how it sounds, how the album sounds. This last track is called Foam Angel, and my thought is that the vocals are the foam angel that have been talking to us the whole time, trying to communicate with us, maybe. But it's an angel and it's speaking different language. It's not intelligible other than that one track where something came through trying to connect to us. But yeah, just kind of like made it all make a little bit more sense. Again, I don't know if any of this is accurate at all. I don't know what the intention from Ulla is, but this is what I get, and I like it a lot. This last track reminds me a bit of Gloss with all the really intense edits, but this is a lot calmer, a lot less overbearing. And then, the song and the album just kind of ends unceremoniously. Just like the middle of like a piano note just kind of cut off and it's over. And I don't know what to make about that ending, but it's fine by me. But yeah, I really like this album. It was super atmospheric. It really evokes these very particular feelings in me of this kind of like television memory, that's like nostalgic. It's out of focus. It's there, but it's not there. It's distant. It's cold, but it's warm. It's purgatory. It's like existing in this very, I guess, liminal space. I don't know. I'm hesitant to use the term liminal because I feel like I don't really know what it means, and a lot of people don't really know what it means, so they just kind of use it because it sounds cool. But maybe, I don't know. It's kind of liminal. But yeah. The only thing I wish it had more was, I guess, more of an emotional pull, because while it's very focused on the atmosphere and the ambiance, and sometimes that can be a little bit hard to fully sink into for the whole ride because it's a little bit more cerebral. It doesn't, and it's not rhythmic typically. And so, sometimes I don't find myself sinking into it fully, but it's not a problem because what it's doing is besides that, and I don't want it to do something that it's not. That's just more of a personal preference. But yeah, it's a good project. Very happy to have listened to it and bought it. If you like it, you should buy it. And on Bandcamp. I guess I should link that. I'll link it. But yeah, excited to hear more from Ulla in the future. If you watch this, thanks for watching.